great deal up to the mother to be the pillar of the family and to try to keep things going harmoniously. But the benefit of the doubt, and I certainly respect people who have a job to do, but when it comes to
thrill of this moment keeps me from saying what I really feel. I can only say thank you with all my heart to...
In the glittering world of 1950s Hollywood, one rising star captivated not just moviegoers, but a prince. Grace Kelly's journey from Philadelphia socialite to Academy Award winner to real-life princess seems like the ultimate fairy tale. But what if the story you thought you knew was just the beginning? Today, we uncover the fascinating contradictions of a woman who transformed a nation and left an indelible mark on cinema, fashion and royalty, all before her tragic end at just 52. Born November 12, 1929, to a wealthy Irish-American family, Grace Patricia Kelly grew up in a 17-room mansion in Philadelphia. Her father, John B. Kelly Sr., was a 3-time Olympic gold medalist in rowing and a self-made millionaire. What few realized was that young Grace's quiet nature set her apart in her competitive family. While her siblings excelled in athletics, following their Olympic champion father's footsteps, Grace was introverted, often sickly, and drawn to imagination rather than physical prowess. This sense of being an outsider would fuel Grace's determination and ambition in ways that would later astonish everyone who once overlooked her, especially her father, who never expected his shy daughter to eclipse the family name in worldwide fame. As a teen, Grace discovered acting, attending the American Academy of Dramatic Arts against her father's wishes. He famously dismissed the theatre as hardly better than street walking, a sentiment that only fueled Grace's quiet rebellion. Living at the Barbizon Hotel for Women in Manhattan, Grace supported herself through modelling while pursuing stage roles. Her transformation during this period was remarkable. Through rigorous elocution training, she developed her distinctive accent, cultured, refined, and impossible to place geographically, an entirely self-created aspect of her star persona. By 1952, at just 23, Grace secured her first significant film role in High Noon opposite Gary Cooper. Though her performance was restrained, industry insiders recognized a unique presence, someone who projected both vulnerability and inner strength on screen. In just 5 short years, from 1952 to 1956, Grace made 11 films, earned 3 Academy Award nominations, and won an Oscar for Best Actress. It was her collaboration with Alfred Hitchcock that cemented her iconic status. Hitchcock recognized qualities in Grace that aligned perfectly with his cinematic vision, elegance, mystery, and that rare combination of cool exterior masking passionate depths. Their first film together, Dial M for Murder, showcased Grace's ability to portray complex emotions beneath a composed surface. Hitchcock would later describe working with Kelly as a revelation, saying she possessed sexual elegance, an ineffable quality that made audiences unable to look away. Their third and final collaboration, To Catch a Thief, filmed on the French Riviera, would prove fatefully prophetic. As Grace's character drove Cary Grant's former cat burglar along the winding coastal roads, the same roads where she would later lose her life, neither could have imagined how art would tragically mirror reality decades later. If you're enjoying this exploration of Grace Kelly's extraordinary journey, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our celebrations of iconic figures who shaped our culture. Now let's continue with the role that would change everything. In 1954, Grace made the bold decision to shed her glamorous image for the country girl. Playing the dowdy, long-suffering wife of an alcoholic performer, Grace stripped away her makeup and transformed herself completely. In April 1955, fate intervened when Grace travelled to the Cannes Film Festival. A photo shoot arranged by Paris Match magazine would change the course of her life forever. The meeting between Grace and Prince Rainier III of Monaco was almost derailed several times. When they finally met, Despite the awkward circumstances, they connected immediately. What was meant to be a brief photo opportunity extended into a private tour of the palace gardens. Monaco was at a critical juncture. Under a treaty with France, if the prince died without an heir, the principality would be absorbed by France. Moreover, the once glamorous destination had fallen into decline after World War II. Rainier needed not just a wife, but someone who could restore Monaco's fading prestige and ensure its independence. When the prince travelled to America in December 1955 and proposed after just 3 days with Grace, he was securing both his heart's desire and his country's future. The announcement of Grace's engagement sent shockwaves through Hollywood. At the height of her fame, she was willing to give it all up for a life of royal duty. What many don't know is that a dowry was required, a staggering $2 million. When Jack Kelly heard this demand, he reportedly exclaimed, "My daughter doesn't have to pay anyone to marry her." Nevertheless, the sum was eventually paid, with Grace contributing a significant portion from her own earnings. The wedding celebration spanned multiple days, beginning with a civil ceremony on April 18, 1956, followed by a religious ceremony at St. Nicholas Cathedral. Grace's wedding gown, designed by MGM's Helen Rose, featured 25 yards of silk taffeta and antique Brussels lace. It has since inspired countless bridal designs, including Kate Middleton's. The ceremony was broadcast to an estimated 30 million viewers worldwide, one of the first global media events of its kind. When the Archbishop pronounced them husband and wife, Grace Kelly officially became Her Serene Highness Princess Grace of Monaco. Grace's transition from Hollywood star to royal princess was challenging. Upon arriving in Monaco, she faced a new language, unfamiliar customs, and the weight of centuries of tradition. What Grace hadn't anticipated was the stark difference between American informality and Monaco's rigid protocols. According to her friend Judith Balaban Quine, Grace felt like a bird in a gilded cage, with every aspect of her life suddenly controlled by palace officials. Prince Rainier, raised in European aristocratic tradition, expected his wife to be formally dressed at all times and maintained separate bedrooms, standard for European royalty, but jarring for the American-raised Grace. Within 9 months of the wedding, Grace provided an heir. Princess Caroline was born in January 1957, followed by Prince Albert in March 1958, securing Monaco's independence from France. The pressures took their toll. Grace suffered multiple miscarriages after Albert's birth, adding private grief to her public responsibilities. Biographers note that she experienced periods of depression exacerbated by her isolation from family and friends in America. Her attempts to return to acting were firmly rebuffed. In 1962, when Alfred Hitchcock offered her the lead in Marnie, Grace initially accepted. However, Rainier made it clear that acting was incompatible with her royal duties. This rejection represented a painful surrender of her artistic ambitions. In 1965, Princess Stephanie was born, completing the royal family. By this time, Grace and Rainier had developed a functional partnership, though friends observed they maintained largely separate lives. Throughout her life as Princess Grace, the media's fascination never waned. The freedom of the press works in such a way that there is not much freedom from it, she once remarked with characteristic dry wit. By the 1970s, the royal couple faced significant challenges. According to biographer Wendy Lee, Rainier became increasingly preoccupied with Monaco's business affairs, often leaving Grace alone. The cultural gap between them widened, with Grace maintaining her American friendships, while Rainier remained embedded in European aristocratic circles. Grace purchased an apartment in Paris as a personal retreat. While the palace denied rumours of separation, close friends observed that the couple effectively led separate lives, coming together primarily for official functions and family occasions. Grace fiercely protected her children's privacy, understanding firsthand the pressures of public life. In a 1982 interview, she revealed that Stephanie sometimes had to travel in the trunk of their car just so the paparazzi wouldn't follow her. This protective instinct extended to Princess Diana, whom Grace met in 1981. Recognizing a kindred spirit, Grace reportedly advised, "Don't worry, dear, it will only get worse." This empathetic warning revealed Grace's awareness of the price of the fairy tale. Though Grace never returned to film acting, she found ways to nurture her artistic spirit. She gave poetry readings across Europe and America, performed narration for documentaries, and became a patron of the arts in Monaco. In 1976, she became one of the first female board members of 20th Century Fox, maintaining connections with the film industry she loved. She established the Princess Grace Foundation, which continues to support emerging talent in dance, theatre, and film. Grace's influence extended beyond the arts. She became a global style icon, whose elegant, timeless fashion choices continue to inspire designers. The famous Kelly bag by Hermès was renamed in her honour after she was photographed using it to shield her first pregnancy from paparazzi. Through her presence and patronage, she elevated Monaco's international standing, attracting tourism, business, and cultural recognition. What had once been known primarily for its casino became celebrated for its cultural festivals, Grand Prix race, and humanitarian initiatives. On September 13, 1982, Princess Grace and 17-year-old Princess Stephanie were driving back to Monaco from their country home. With their car full of dresses, Grace opted to drive rather than use their chauffeur. The months before had been difficult. Grace was suffering from frequent headaches and the emotional strain of Caroline's separation from Philippe Junot. Her relationship with Rainier had reached a fragile détente. They maintained separate lives but coexisted respectfully for their children and principality. Grace had reportedly been warned by doctors to avoid driving due to health issues and poor eyesight. On the winding roads, ironically, some of the same ones featured in To Catch a Thief, Grace suffered a stroke while driving. She lost control of the vehicle, which plunged down a 45-foot embankment. Stephanie desperately tried to regain control, but couldn't prevent the crash. At Monaco's Princess Grace Hospital, while Stephanie suffered minor injuries, Grace's condition was critical. The following day, she died at 52, leaving a devastated family and mourning principality. Despite their complex relationship, Rainier was profoundly affected. According to their son Albert, he wasn't quite the same man as he was before the accident. The prince, often emotionally reserved during their marriage, displayed unexpected vulnerability in his grief. Her funeral was attended by nearly 1,000 people. James Stewart delivered a moving eulogy. "I just loved Grace Kelly. Not because she was a princess, not because she was an actress, but because she was just about the nicest lady I ever met." Prince Rainier never remarried. Until his death in 2005, he reigned alone, continuing their shared vision for Monaco. Grace Kelly's life embodied both fairy tale and reality, the glamour of Hollywood, the prestige of royalty, but also the human experiences of love, sacrifice, and loss. In just 52 years, she created multiple legacies as an Oscar-winning actress, a princess who transformed a nation, and a humanitarian whose foundations continue her work today. When asked how she would like to be remembered, Grace once replied, "I would like to be remembered as someone who accomplished useful deeds, and who was a kind and loving person. I would like to leave the memory of a human being with a correct attitude, and who did her best to help others." In this wish, as in so many aspects of her life, Grace Kelly achieved exactly what she set out to do, leaving an indelible mark on cinema, fashion, royalty, and the hearts of all who continue to be captivated by her timeless grace. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Grace Kelly's extraordinary life, please like this video, subscribe to Nostalgic Icons, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Hollywood's princess.